Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. I have a fair bit to cover today, but before we talk about De Jong, Timber, and Nunez, I would like to talk about a Uruguayan player who is already a Manchester United player in young Facundo Pellistri. He played in a couple of games, one as a starter, one as a sub, over the weekend, Friday or Thursday night, and then again on Sunday for Uruguay against Mexico and United States. And honestly, I find him incredibly impressive, especially in the game he started. He had an assist. He was involved in a few goals, actually. And he provides something that we do not have at United. He's really good on the right. Even though he's right-footed, not left-footed, he excels there. He's very strong on the ball. He uses his pace, which is surprisingly fast, to get down to the line for cutbacks and crosses. He keeps his head up and is always looking for where to pass it, sometimes earlier, sometimes getting all the way down before crossing it in. And he stays on his feet. And for a smaller player, he's very, very fast and very strong. He was just surprisingly physical in his ability to shrug off tacklers and people, on him and use his pace to get past them quickly. At the international level, he looks like he fits. And obviously you can't make total judgments off international football, but at the same time, being in a very good Uruguayan national team and looking like you belong as one of the better players is nothing to sneeze at. And the Mexican team isn't bad. Just being more physical than those players is something that is of note, especially for a player who looks like he could be in the Premier League, if he was to get a chance at United. So I'd really like to see United keep him next year and hope he gets a fair shot. I heard from someone close to him in February that he wanted to earn his place at United this summer. However, there are reports from some people who've spoken to others around him that if he doesn't get a chance this summer, he would look to move on with his career. And I agree. There's already been discussions, apparently, for him to potentially go to Almeria, where a fair few players have gone. That's where Darwin Nunez went prior to going to Benfica. And I can't disagree with that if he cannot get his chances now. The Alaves loan has been terrible. He didn't play the last 6 months of the year after they sacked their manager, and he really just cannot be left out in the cold any further. Personally, I think it would be an awful waste to throw him away without him getting a shot this season, and frankly, for Ahmad, it's the same for me. I think both of them are, in the end, we've paid 35 million for the two of them, and if you go and sign another right winger this summer, which is what I'm concerned about if they do, and why I don't think they will, or at least as a priority, if you sign another right winger, they're gone. Because then you've got Sancho, Rashford, Elanga, and another right winger that could potentially be ahead of them. And they're just not going to get chances, and you essentially throw away any value you have in those players. You have to keep loaning them out until they're down to 1 year on their contract, and then why sign a new one when you can go somewhere else for free instead of potentially being stuck behind other players at United. So I think this summer is a good chance for them to try, and I think next year is a good chance to see what they have for United and can offer. I think with Europa and the competitions that we're in, there's no reason why they can't show something. And I do hope they get a chance. So that's sort of where I wanted to start. And now let's talk about Frenkie de Jong, because this is where the most news has been recently. On Friday, there were reports or Saturday, that they accelerated talks, whatever that means. And we heard there were talks with Barcelona between the clubs directly on Saturday and that they'd continued. However, on Saturday night, the message I got was that they were apart on a fee. They'd moved a little closer, but that there was no agreements and they hadn't gotten there. And interestingly, the latest information I have is that part of the difficulty, which I didn't really expect but is coming up, is specifically Barcelona in terms of a fee. I didn't think this area would be a problem, but they're being, from what I can tell, a bit strange about this, and this is, maybe typical negotiations, but I'm concerned about the fee, and I'm concerned about how they're playing it, that, they've created a little bit of a honeypot situation, which simply means, they lead you in, making you think they've got to sell, they've got to go, and then once you're in there, raising the price, getting it further up, and trying to get the most out of you as possible. The latest information I have isn't exactly positive on this. This was Saturday night and this was Sunday morning. I was given some specifics on it, which was that they seemingly asked for around 85 to 90 million euros now in discussion. United have been willing to offer around 70 million total in the package, with I think a little bit of a lower base. And I don't think they're going to go to 85, 90, and I think it'd be a huge mistake given the situation to do so. Subjectively, the value for United is high to bring in De Jong, obviously, our need in the midfield, but that's how we end up paying way too much for players. 85, 90 million euros for Frenkie de Jong would be the third most expensive midfielder of all time, behind Pogba and Coutinho, which were not exactly wins. The midfielder market doesn't really have that. I mean, right now you're looking at Tchouaméni. There's discussions on where he'll go. May end up going for 80 million euros or so. This is a player whose stock is at an all-time high. He's rising. He's younger. He looks incredible. He's in demand. There's a bidding war between Madrid and PSG. He has a huge kind of unique profile, a defensive midfielder position, and just kind of that he does it all. Very, very strong, one of the most unique players. Could be one of the best players in the world. And he's going for 80. That's around the fee he's going to end up being. Maybe a little bit more with some add-ons. But still, when you look at the market of it, all those factors involved, 85, 90 is way, way too much for a player who's a bit out of form and out of favor, doesn't really fit in at Barcelona. He said so himself, and the fans of Barcelona will tell you, hasn't totally kicked on. He isn't, amazing every game. And they're in a desperate situation, and supposedly they have to sell. So you don't pay that kind of fee for that. That's how you end up getting a knock-on effect that really hurts you because you're desperate. And here's the thing about it. If you offer 60 to 70 million to Barcelona, if they can afford to reject that and go through June 30th without selling De Jong at all, then this deal was never happening anyway. If they can afford to reject 60, 70 million, then the whole thing is bullshit, right? The whole foundation of this is they have to sell Frenkie. They have to get his wages off, and they have to get money in before June 30th. So if they can afford to reject 60, 70 million, then that's just not true, and their financial situation is not as it's been said, and they didn't need to sell. So there's really no reason to go above that kind of fee and to carry on beyond that. And so I think they shouldn't go above that, and I don't think they will, but it worries me just a little bit for our summer if this drags beyond the next week. Usually I'd say this is normal negotiation. Obviously it's a quality player. It's a large fee. It's been 4 weeks almost since Romero spoke. It's been almost four weeks since I found out that they first contacted De Jong, and he basically said no, or he wanted to stay at Barcelona. This hasn't been very quick. It needs to move quicker. I understand that the window's not even open, but that's not really a relevant date. You want players in by preseason. So, obviously you've got time for that, but the point is you want players in. You don't want to be so focused on this one that you're not getting your other deals done. And Barcelona seemingly are running a bit of a line that they don't necessarily need to sell De Jong. Gerard Romero on a stream this morning says if they don't sell De Jong, they'll sell someone else. And that's totally different to what they said in the beginning, and that's what concerns me about this whole kind of honeypot situation, is that they have other options, but they were trying to see if they could suck United in to get 80, 90 million out of them, more than they should be paying. So hopefully that's not the case. I think this week is important. I think there's been some meetings and discussions between Ten Hag and the club about what to do now, and they need to make some strong decisions here within the next week. Next week, internationals are over, and so that's when you're going to need to see deals finishing, even if they're not doing their medicals and joining up until the end of the month or early July when they're due to return. You want the deals done and things lined up, because it's going to take a few weeks to get it all sorted. Not to mention you have visa issues and Brexit and all the things that have happened. You don't want a situation again where you're making these signings in early July. They can't even join until mid-July, end of July, because of all of that. And They're not on the plane, they're not doing preseason all the way out in, the Far East. So these are not the things you want to see happen. They need to be sorted this week, and then next week getting some deals actually over the line. But something needs to be happening. And personally, I think, you could see a brief in this situation where United are prepared to walk away from De Jong over the fee or a breakthrough in things, and that has to happen this week because you don't know yet that a deal can be done here. And it could affect other signings. Aside from everything else, if you go up to 80 million euros, you're ruling out any significant second signing before sales. So that could be a problem. In addition, other names of the midfield you get linked to Eriksen, which I think is smart. It's free. It would provide great balance and rotation for a similar player to Bruno, and I would absolutely take that. However, the links also imply to me that Erik ten Hag is looking to bring in his 4-2-3-1 of the years past, and that might be down to a lack of viable defensive midfielders on the market, or it might just be playing to our strengths. With Fred, McTominay, and a player like De Jong, you can bring in Bruno as a traditional number 10. I think it's not unlikely you see a bit of that combination of the Shone Frenkie de Jong 4-2-3-1, which is a successful thing and which the United team is a little more familiar with. Provides a bit extra cover without needing that, top tier, top class soul holding number 6. And again, if Frenkie likes to pull the ball off the back line, then you don't really have a pure out and out number 6. So I think that it makes a lot of sense, something like that. But United have to move on this. The concern if De Jong drags and is the other signings and situations, and this is already kind of coming out. And I don't really care your opinion on Darwin Nunez, whether you want him or not. The point is this could be applicable to any target. But a report pops up yesterday from Paul Joyce, Tier 1 for Liverpool, that they're interested in Darwin Nunez following potentially the sale of Sadio Mane. Now, I mentioned this last week, I think on May 31st. The rumors that they'd agreed a deal and all of that were totally false, and they are. As he states in here, if they decide to sell Mane, they want to get enough money to fund a replacement, and they won't be pursuing Nunez at any cost. So what this really means is it's pushing it down and saying they're not just going to go pay 70 million for Nunez or what his fee is. It basically says they need to sell enough from Mane to buy a replacement. Now, and Bayern initial offer was only in the range of 30 million euros. At most, they're going to offer 40. So unless they're going to bump that all the way up to 60, 70, then you're not going to see them pursuing Nunez. They can't afford it. They can't pay for that. They're more likely, given they've already bought Diaz from their summer budget, Carvalho, they're more likely to buy a cheaper, younger, type replacement that could come in underneath Jota, Diaz, Salah, etc., and work their way in. So Nunez isn't really on the table, but anything can happen in football. If they sell Mane and they manage to, let's say, be at a great fee for someone else they didn't expect, and they start peeking around, coming in on it, that can drive the price up, and that can happen to any target. Let's say they sell some center backs and they start, I'm not saying this will happen, but Chelsea miss out on someone, they sell some center backs, they start looking at Timber. Man City move on Laporte, they start looking at Timber. Or Pau Torres, or this. All of this can happen, and all this can drive the fees up for the targets that we have and make it harder to get the deals done. And that's why you cannot fixate on a single target and let time pass. You want to have deals really lined up to be completed next week. And they may be lined up, and the deals may be on the table, which I believe that they are, in terms of what it would take. But until it's signed, until it's done, those deals can change if other clubs get involved. All of them. And that's the danger in football of waiting. The links come in, prices drive up. They want to wait and see who else can make offers, and then you're running against time and running against other clubs where you didn't want to. And that's the danger of what's going on there. So I think that the De Jong thing has to move in the next few days. It has to. And then you'd like to see the links pop back up and some movement and activity on the striker front and on the Timber situation as well. Timber played for Netherlands in Friday in a right back role, which I think again would be the one here. As I mentioned, the backup targets are left-footed left center backs, or they're different profiles and could even be different signings at all. Still my opinion, but he obviously keeps playing that role of right center back, right back. I think that could be how he's used at United if he joins. In addition, if you watch the Uruguay game, I think you'd seen a lot of characteristics of Nunez that go against some of the criticisms from people who likely haven't watched him. He was very involved in build-up. His hold-up was decent. His passing isn't fantastic in build-up, but it's certainly adequate and serviceable. He did about what was asked of him. He also created 2 amazing chances for teammates. One, down the right, getting creative and putting a cross in. The other one, burning by through the center and getting getting on the ball and making a very, very clever pass to Cavani. Both players missed their chances, but he easily could and should have had 2 assists, but created 2 very, very good chances. So he does a lot more than just get in there. And if you watched as well, as a striker, he had all the attributes. He makes those run past the back line in the box, not against the counter, and was looking to get on the end of many, many crosses, crashing that 6-yard box. And the quality on the deliveries wasn't there. And the one time one came in, he had another player jump in front of him and actually kind of interfere with his shot. And it was also an amazing save by the goalkeeper. But, he has that attributes, getting in the box for, those striker-type goals and also creating chances for others. But physically, he's very imposing, and defenders have to sit off him a little. Simply because they cannot compete with him physically. So he definitely played as a striker, played in a 2, played on the left, played on the right, and I think that flexibility is important. He's much more versatile than he gets credit for. So anyway, what you really want to see now coming up is some progress this week, and as soon as internationals end, a couple of deals done, including Nunez and Timber, and hopefully Frenkie de Jong too. But this is very urgent. You don't want Barcelona biding their time to see if PSG come in if they miss after Tchouaméni, and you don't want to see a situation where they come in and play spoiler and bid the thing up to 90, 100 million, because that would be crazy. And that, is just a bad situation. So United need to, play things a little bit tough here on the De Jong situation and not get dragged into a long, drawn-out process that affects their other deals. Personally, I don't want to see the mistakes of the past get repeated where they fixate on a target for months, one that maybe doesn't want to come, and that is maybe the situation with the selling club isn't as clear as you thought in the beginning. They need to progress now. We're running out of time, and you can say that's ridiculous, but it isn't. It's 3 weeks now, and you need time to get everything done and have players joining in 3 weeks. So you need to see in the next 7 to 10 days deals actually getting over the line to a point of completion and certainty. To get Ten Hag's players in early and to have the preseason we need to have a real effective start to next summer. Okay, so I'll keep you updated as things happen. Obviously, it's been holiday weekend in England, so that could explain some of it as well, but I think things really, really need to kick off over the next week if they are on track, as they should be, working across these multiple deals towards getting players in for preseason. Just ended this video, but as I was looking, a new report came out from Spain. Hopefully this is good news, and there's a little bit of an update I got about 10 minutes ago, and it says that from a good source in Spain that Barcelona are preparing for planning Frenkie de Jong's departure this summer for 70 to 80 million euros. So again, I think this is more in line with what I was discussing in this video, that United need to play a bit tough on this and not go up. 60 to 65 million plus 10 million in add-ons in that 70-75 range is, I think, about the absolute maximum they want. And if Barcelona are now open to that price, then it definitely helps this deal. And then the other little bit here is, let me see, that they were discussing terms with Frenkie de Jong's team, offer a bigger fee, bigger wages than anybody else at the moment, call it a new Champions League tax. And I think that's true. I don't think it necessarily has to break the wage structure, but offering a decent wage and a decent bonus would, as a way to get around the no Champions League. So there's still progress here. This is a good report coming out of Barcelona. I think it implies that United are probably, as mentioned, at that 65-70 million spot, and Barcelona want a little bit more, but meeting in a 60-65 plus 10 or so fee range would be a very good compromise that I think both clubs could reach and wouldn't take United out of their plan. 65 up front is perfect. and would still allow for everything else that needs to be done. So this is good. Let's see what happens if I have another update soon that can corroborate this or move things closer, then I will let you know. Again, thank you. So again, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on, and let me know what you think. And I'll see you in the next video.